Hi, welcome to Bigfoot Adventures with Lisa. This next story I'm going to tell you came out of Goethe State Forest. There was a Bigfoot sighting there, and if you see this magnolia tree behind me, this has something to do with that forest. So I'll tell you about that in this story too. Welcome to Bigfoot Adventures. Have you ever had a Bigfoot sighting? If you have and you don't want to let anybody know that it was you that saw them, or you're afraid to tell your story because you're afraid of you being made fun of, I'd be glad to tell your story for you. All you have to do is email me your story at bigfootadventures411@gmail.com. Let me know what you want me to say, what you don't want me to say, and I can put your story out there so other people can hear about it without you being identified. This past Sunday, a gentleman reached out to me who has been having ongoing Bigfoot experiences near the Goethe State Forest where he lives. He lives right on the edge of it, and he told me some unbelievable stuff about how there's like a whole field of magnolia trees. And if you saw the magnolia tree in the start of my video, they're pretty large. And all the branches are twisted up and twisted within each other, and sticks and brush have been placed on top like something's sleeping under them. And we're not talking like one tree, we're talking a whole field of these trees. But that's not the only thing. There's been ongoing stuff going on out there. There's been people sighting, seeing them, seeing their footprints. And he was nice enough to tell me the exact area on Google Maps so that I could go out there and do an investigation on my own. Also, he gave me a location in the Ocala National Forest, which is not too far from some of the areas that we've explored before, where 2 people have gone missing and were never heard of from again. And he actually camped out there. He gave me the coordinates on this area. And while he was camping out there, he said in the middle of the night, it sounded like children were screaming in the woods. He said it was the weirdest thing he ever heard. He knows the forest. He's a hunter. It wasn't, a bear. It wasn't a coyote. It wasn't a fox. He said it was nothing like anything he's ever heard before. He's also seen footprints out there. So he was nice enough to give me all these coordinates and show me exactly where these areas are on Google Maps and on Google Earth. So I'm going to be doing some investigation in these areas. But in the meantime, I wanted to tell you about a story that he knew about that happened out there that's on the BFRO website. So this story I'm telling you is about a sighting that some people had out there. Thank you for watching my channel, and thank you for listening, and I appreciate you. This is the Goethe State Park, or State Forest. This is some place I'd like to camp sometime. I'm just kind of driving through checking it out. It's pretty dense wooding, but I wish I had more time, but I'm fixing to lose some daylight here soon. So I'm just driving around checking it out. That's the Goethe State Forest. Yeah, it looks like it would be pretty fun to camp here. Hopefully I won't get stuck. But if I see anything else, I'll tune back in. This story comes out of the Goethe State Forest. It's BFRO report 17644. It says it happened in the fall of 2005, but it actually happened 3 years prior to that, according to the witnesses. 2 buddies, they were out scouting in the Goethe State Forest, getting ready for hunting season. It was the month of September. And they were just walking around the forest, scouting around, looking for tracks, deer tracks and stuff like that. And that morning that they were out, they went further back than they usually do. And they found, some new deer trails and, some runs where a lot of hogs were. Um, so they kept walking back there. And as they walked back there, they kept smelling something that smelled like death. They described it as like the smell of death and the smell of a skunk mixture. And they were about 3 miles back in the woods by this point in time. So they kept thinking they were going to run across a dead carcass, but they never did. So they just kept walking, and they came to this clearing. And as they came to this clearing, one of the guys saw something that like caught his eye. And the grass was kind of overgrown, but something caught his eye that looked like it was moving. And the whatever it was that was moving was like hiding behind palmetto, the palmettos and stuff. And there was like a ditch that ran off on one side of the road where they were. So they start walking down the trail and they see this movement, and they just stood there and watched it for a while. Well, they didn't really know what it was. They couldn't see. So they walked a little further, and then they got down on the other side of the road, down into like a little gully there. And they kept watching that spot because they thought it was a deer. And right when they did that, this Bigfoot thought that they were gone, apparently, and stood up out of the grass and come walking out in front of them on this path with a little one. There was a little Bigfoot and a grown Bigfoot, and they go walking across the path. Well, the guys, they could still smell the smell of death, and they were freaking out because they couldn't believe what they were seeing. So they immediately start walking back towards their house. Now, their house was probably about 3 miles away from where they were. They lived just off the Goethe State Forest, and they estimate they were about 150 yards from where they saw this figure. At first the guys thought it was a person, but then they realized very soon that it was not a person. They were very large. They said that the older one was darker in color, and the young one was more of a reddish tint to it. They were able to watch them for about 10 minutes before they left. And then they started freaking out, thinking, maybe we better get out of here. So they spent about 10 minutes, they said, staring at it. They don't believe that the Bigfoots ever saw them again after they went down in the gully. They believe that they probably figured they left, but they absolutely didn't leave, and they were able to sit there and watch this. After the sighting, they did find some footprints in the area, but they also went back home, pretty soon after that. So that's their story, and it's a pretty cool area. And like I said, the other gentleman that I talked to has been having ongoing experiences in this same area. Now the guys, they did say that the creature was about 7 foot tall, the older one, and the little one was probably about 4 foot. And the footprints, he said he were 11 and a half, and they were a couple inches more than he is. So that's what they saw, and that's what they smelled. And because of this ongoing events that are happening with this gentleman I talked to him for about 3.5 hours. I am definitely going to be making a trip out there. The BFRO has been out there camping in this area, but they weren't quite in the right area. So that's the story, and I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for watching.